We really do serve a God who keeps his promises. And when we read our Old Testament, we come to a guy named Isaiah. And Isaiah was a great man of God, and he was a great prophet, and he was speaking to God's people, the kingdom of Judah, and they had all kinds of trouble within and without. There were people attacking them from the outside. On the inside, they had all kinds of moral and inward and spiritual corruption. And during these really difficult times, God brings a message to Isaiah, a message of hope and of strength for those who truly want to follow and trust in the Lord. When I was a student at Oklahoma Christian, the home of the OC Eagles, in the Bible building where I had the majority of my classes, they had this great big marble plaque on the wall, and we were encouraged to go there and spend time in prayer. And that plaque, it seemed to be as tall as me. It had some of the words of Isaiah on it, from Isaiah chapter 41. I want to read those words to you. Isaiah 41, starting in verse 28. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah gave these powerful words to God's children. And I believe they speak a great promise and a great encouragement to us today. Here we have at the beginning of this passage a great picture of God. He is called the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. It says he won't grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. We serve a God who is omnipresent. He's everywhere in respect to time and space. He's the everlasting God. Where there's a place, God is the one that made that place. God is present there. He's omnipotent. Not only did he create the ends of the earth, he never grows weary. He's all powerful and he's omniscient. He's all knowing. There's not a person who can fathom his understanding. What a picture of the God we serve. But not only is there a picture of God there, there's a picture of us. Verse 29 says, he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. There are two words to describe us there: weak and weary. Weary and weak. And we have a God who promises to be there for us when we are hoping in him, even when we're weary. Eagles are really impressive creatures. They've got incredible eyesight. They can see for miles. They've got talons that are powerful and can crush their prey. And it's just amazing to watch them soar and to fly through the air and through the sky. Before we look more at this passage in Isaiah that says that we can soar on wings like eagles, I want us to look at another time in the Bible where eagles are talked about. And Moses here in Deuteronomy chapter 32 has been reciting the words of a song. It's a long song to the children of Israel. It's near the end of his life, and he's talking to them about how God has provided for them, and he has helped them, and he's been with them. And he uses a picture of an eagle to explain to them how God has helped them to learn how to fly and to learn how to go on. And eagles learn to fly through struggle, through rough times and through weariness. And here that's described in Deuteronomy 32 and verse 9. Read with me. For the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob his allotted inheritance. In a desert land he found him, in a barren and howling waste. He shielded him and cared for him. He guarded him as the apple of his eye. Like an eagle that stirs up its nest and hovers over its young, that spreads its wings to catch them and carries them aloft, the Lord alone led him. No foreign god was with him. Eagles learn to fly through that struggle. There comes a time when a mama eagle will stir up her nest. She'll take the soft stuff out of the nest, and it'll be uncomfortable. And she'll hover above it, and you might think that it means that she's demonstrating how to fly, and it may be that she's hovering up there and refusing to feed them anymore and refusing to give them comfort. But whatever it is, eventually she stirs up that nest and she helps those eagles get a little bit uncomfortable, and she helps them learn to fly through their trouble and through their weariness and through their struggle. And God helps us in that way. And I want us to think back to that verse we read in Isaiah, that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. And that word renew could also be translated exchange. And it's like we exchange our strength for God's strength. He is our helper. He is the one who strengthens us and energizes us and helps us. And in that passage, it tells us that God will help us do three things. First of all, it says he will help us to soar or to fly. Sometimes there's really hard times in life. Maybe you get a little tired of life sometimes and the struggles, but you might remember some of the most difficult times of our life or of your life, and about all there is to do is to rise above it and to soar above it. And the Bible gives us this promise: God will help you soar if you trust in him, if you hope in him, if you learn to wait on him. God can help you fly through the difficult and troubled times of life, the tragedies of life. Sometimes, we want to crawl. Sometimes we want to struggle. Sometimes we find ourselves giving up, but God says, I'll help you fly. I'll help you rise above it. Not only does he say here in this passage that he'll help us soar on wings like eagles or fly, he says, I'll help you run and not grow weary. And he uses the example of youth, people who are in their prime physically. And he says, even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But he says, I can help you run and not grow weary. Maybe you can think about those emergency times in life where you're tired and you're on your last bit of energy, but there's trouble or there's a great need, and somehow you find that energy to keep running, to keep moving, to keep hurrying. And God says, spiritually, I can help you run. I can help you find strength that you didn't know you had. I can help you run. And not only that, but God says, I can even help you walk. I have a little book in my office written by a man named Warren Wiersbe, and it's called The Bumps Are What You Climb On. It's got a lot of really encouraging little messages in it. And in his book, he says sometimes he thinks it's harder to walk than it is to fly. Just that walking every day, just to keep going. Sometimes in the emergency times of life, or the times of trial or trouble, it's easy to somehow get that adrenaline to kick in and to work for us and to really work through those difficult, trying, emergency times of life, or spiritually. Warren Wiersbe tells the story of one of his best friends had a maid who always came up with wise or clever sayings. And one of the sayings he remembered her coming up with was, "The trouble with life is that it is so daily." The trouble with life is that it's so daily. Can you relate to that? Just that day in and day out of dealing with life and putting one foot in front of the other and continuing to do those good things and those important things that you're supposed to do. And God says, I can even help you walk day by day. Sometimes you'll fly, sometimes you'll run, but sometimes you'll need my help just to walk. In your daily walk with God, even when you're weary. Do you look around the world around us right now sometimes and think, man, I'm tired. I've had about enough of what's going on. God can help you to walk. He can help you to keep going. He can exchange your strength for his strength. The Apostle Paul is someone who understood and learned this idea. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, we read this passage where Paul had some kind of problem that he called a thorn in the flesh. And we don't really know what that was, and people make all kinds of guesses from the physical to the spiritual. But Paul was struggling with something, and he had prayed for multiple seasons for God to take that thorn in the flesh away. And God didn't take it away. And Paul was waiting on the Lord, and he was hoping in the Lord. And in 2 Corinthians 12 and verse 8 it says, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. Even when we're living through those times where it feels like the nest is getting stirred up, the Apostle Paul tells us that our weakness shows God's power, and that his grace is sufficient for us. And Christ's power, Christ's strength, can rest on you, even in your difficult and weary times. God's promises are true, and he'll help you even when you're weary. God bless you.